Welcome to Excelsior 32, the online news source for the Excelsior Project from the New York Council of Deliberation.
It's all yours.
Welcome, my brothers, to Excelsior 32, the online news source for the Excelsior Project from the New York Council of Deliberation, Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite, Northern Masonic Jurisdiction. The experiences, comments, opinions, and views shared on this program are those of individual Freemasons and do not reflect the official position of any Grand Lodge, Concordant, or appendant body. Our guest tonight is illustrious Jacob E. Hayrynen. Hope I got that right, my brother.
You did.
Was raised at Houghton Lodge number 218 in 1981. He served at Ishpeming Lodge 314 in 1988 as Worshipful Master. A member of the York Rite and other concordant independent bodies. Our illustrious brother joined the Scottish Rite in the Valley of Marquette in 1995, serving as the Most Wise Master of Peninsular Chapter of Rose Croix from 97 to 98. Appointed the Deputy's Representative for the Valley of Marquette in 2010, he had the 33rd degree conferred upon him as an honorary member of the Supreme Council, NMJ 33rd degree in Chicago in 2011. Appointed membership chairman for the Council of Deliberation for the state of Michigan in 2017, he was elected to be an active trustee of the Supreme Council Scottish Rite Masons, Northern Masonic Jurisdiction in October of 2018. Graduating in 1981 from Michigan Technological University with a Bachelor of Science in Forestry and a focus in conservation, our illustrious brother was honored with the Outstanding Alumni Award in 2012 and named to the Honors Academy in 2013. Welcome, please, our brother tonight. Thank you for your presentation.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. It's an honor to be here and being able to speak with you guys. I enjoy talking about Brothers of the Rite. It's a real passion of mine, and I'm happy to be here to talk about it. I know I've talked to some of you guys before about it, just briefly, and we're real proud, Michigan, of this organization, and what we'll do is I'll talk about Brothers of the Rite and its inception. Then we'll talk about the requirements for membership. The ceremony, we'll talk about that and the focus, the structure of the organization, some of the main objectives, and then we'll talk about where we're going and moving forward. And then what we'll do is we'll open it up to questions if you guys have any. So that's kind of what the plan is, and I'll go ahead. Back in 2015, another brother and I were driving back from the Michigan Council of Deliberation down in Lower Michigan. Michigan's a big state. It's 300 miles from the lower part of Michigan up to the Mackinac, and then you cross the bridge, and it's another 300 across from east to west in the Upper Peninsula. So it's a big state, and we have quite a few challenges in regard to that. But anyhow, so it was a long drive back, and we were talking about a lot of things. And one of the things that came up is we were talking about being disappointed in the performance of we were trying to get Scottish Rite Valleys back, doing events and meeting and having fun, and we weren't having any success. We were talking about that, and we tried all kinds of things. We tried dinners, we tried hors d'oeuvre nights, we tried pub nights. We tried a lot of things. We even got together with and jointly did some activities with the Shrine clubs, and it just didn't seem to work. We weren't getting any traction. So we were talking about that, and we shared some thoughts, and we shared some visions of what we thought we might be able to do, and what we determined is we'd have to do something totally different and try to do something exciting that'll reinvigorate, the desire to be involved in a Scottish Rite club. So So when we got back from our trip, we took some of those thoughts and we went to work and started working on the concept. And it took about a year. Took about a year of gathering information from the internet and from all other sources, and then we formed a small committee to bounce ideas and concepts back and forth, and to try to bring it all together. And the results, we developed a new Scottish Rite Club called Brothers of the Rite. We called, it was a new approach, a targeted, innovative approach to promote exposure and raise awareness of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. And we looked at the age class distribution that we had, and we were really hit with the high percentage of our fraternity was 60 years and older. I mean, it was 70% was 60 years and older, and a lot of that, a high percentage of that group was 70 and over. And you look at that, and it's scary. I mean, in the next 10 to 15 years, we're going to take a serious hit. And so we were looking at that age class distribution, and we realized that we're going to have to focus on the younger generations and attract and retain new members, especially younger generations and those that are young at heart. So the intent is to balance out the age class distribution in the fraternity and make it more healthy and sustainable. We kind of, being a forester by training, when you're sustainably managing hardwood forests and you're selectively harvesting, you're going in every 10 to 15 years, and you have to make sure that you're also generating that younger growth, and so you have that perpetual different age classes, so you can go in every 10 to 15 years and you're not falling off a cliff at some point. So it's kind of the same kind of concept. And to balance that, that's what we kind of like to do, with Scottish Rite and Freemasonry. Basically, it's a recruitment and retention tool that we can use to try to help get to that point of balance. As a Scottish Rite Club, Brothers of the Rite will always strive to support the vision, mission, and core values as set forth by Supreme Council in our labors and our BOR events. We think it's very important, and when we were putting this together, it was going to be something totally different. So we wanted to make sure we didn't have any issues with somebody at Supreme Council not being very happy with what we're doing and doing something totally different. So we wanted to make sure that we're following everything, and that would help us to be more successful. The requirements for membership: you have to be a member in good standing with Scottish Rite, and what we did at the beginning was we had to adopt a Scottish Rite name to put on your shirt. And what happened was when we started off, the vision was this is going to be up in the Upper Peninsula, to start with, but we didn't know it would grow so fast and all over the state like it did. So having an exclusive name, and these names, we had a list of names that came from our various degrees in Scottish Rite, and so the new candidate would pick a name, and that name would go onto the shirt, and they would adopt that name. But it was real hard to keep that exclusivity, because when we started growing, it was hard to keep track of the names and manage all that, and then people were wanting the same name, and so we decided to make it optional as far as the name, and so we now there's some people that have names, there's some that want their own name on it, and so we kind of go along with the membership there, and but there's still a lot of interest in having a BOR name from the degrees. My name is Theophilus from the 33rd degree. So you need to purchase a shirt, and that's the only cost you have to join the organization. And the shirt has a logo right here. That logo is on the shirt, and the name if you have one, and then BOR on the sleeve, and that's kind of our signature. And so that was one of the. I'm having a hard time. It's blocking my. This is blocking my. Okay. Okay, there, it's out of the way. Sorry about that. We need to attend and successfully partake in the initiation ceremony, which we call the dirge. And we call it the dirge because it's like a like a funeral dirge, and that's kind of what the theme is, and it's quite macabre, and it has a very serious tone, and but it ends up in a celebration, so it's very uplifting at the end. We wanted it to be fun, and we wanted to leave an impression that would help recruit and retain members that are young and young at heart. And I say young at heart because one of the surprises was there was a lot of older members that joined that really enjoyed it because they could no longer be in a lodge room for many hours at a time and spend a whole day, and this allowed them to go out and have a good time and have fellowship, and they would be there for an hour or hour and a half, and then they could go home. And so that's why we say young at heart, because there's a lot of people that are in the older generations that really enjoyed it. The brothers are briefed in the ceremony as to the symbolic particulars of the logo, and really what we want to do is to reflect our past Masonic experiences, kind of an affirmation and renewal of our commitments to each other and to our Creator. When we were working on developing it, we thought about having an obligation. Then we started thinking that, man, when you get to this point in Freemasonry, you're obligated to the hilt, and we have a lot of obligations that we need to really focus on doing what we already have obligated to, and if we can work on that, that would be what's more important. So we thought it was very important to focus on that. And the other thing we wanted to do was reflect on one of the most personal events that each of us are going to go through in our life, and that's our death. And that's kind of symbolized in our logo with the skull and crossbones, memento mori, and so it's something that is part of the ceremony, and it makes you think, and it makes you kind of prepare for what's coming. The structure is, the structure, ceremonies, and events are set up to accommodate lifestyles of younger generations and others that, sorry, my phone is, I gotta turn it down. Sorry about that. To accommodate the lifestyles of younger generations and others that are working in that fast-paced environment. And when my kids were growing up, and I was with them one day, they said, "Dad, what happened to your patience? You used to be the most patient person in the world. And what's happened to that?" And I really had to think about that. I was sitting there, man, what, it's true. I thought about it. I says, that's true. And you sit there, and every day I go to work, and you have your computer, you have your phone, you have your iPad, and you got stuff coming at you 100 miles an hour. And that was the big change that I went through my career. And really it had a big effect on me as far as patience. And so they were right. And so, when we were setting this up, we were thinking, a lot of these younger generation, they don't have a lot of patience. A lot of them, you see them in a lodge room these days, and after 10 minutes, they're sitting on their hands and they're fidgeting. And, because that, they just don't have the patience anymore. And some of it has to do with the content of the meeting, but that's what we wanted to gear towards. So one of the things that we figured there'd be no formal dues, because the younger generation, a lot of them are raising families, and they have their career that they're working on, a new career, and they don't have a lot of extra money. And so we figured that, that Brothers of the Rite would be a benefit of being a Scottish Rite member. And so we don't have any formal dues. There's no formal business meetings or boring meetings. And we wanted to keep it simple. And so we have an informal structure. And really what we have is a chapter for each valley or region, and a coordinator within that valley. It doesn't take much to coordinate because it's simple. We don't want to collect dues. We don't want to collect money, because then you have to account for it. And so we wanted to keep it simple. And the events, most of them are you pay on your own, Dutch treats. So you don't have to be worried about those kind of things. If you're an organizer, all you got to do is think of an event, get in contact with the facility to give them a heads up, to let them know you're coming. And it's real easy. And then you advertise, and it seems to work really well. There will be a Scottish Rite degree that each chapter will be responsible for. That is coming. That's slow to come. We have had a few degree teams that have spawned from this, but we wish it was a little bit more, a little bit further along. That's one of the challenges that we faced. We have a kickoff event for each region or valley, and the kickoff event, we like to take the team that we started this in the UP, and our team that we have, we like to do the first event, the kickoff event, ourselves. And what we want to do is we want to give them a good experience. We want to make sure that we have consistency within the organization as far as our ceremony, and so we like to do the first one, and then what we'll do is we'll support them if they want to go on their own and do it. If they don't, we're fine to come down and travel and do it. And if not, we can train them and help them get going. And then what we do is make sure that we have a reasonable amount of events that each chapter does on an annual basis, because you need to have things moving. You need to have fun, and you need to have events to get people engaged. There's a requirement to wear your BOR shirt at every event. That has kind of slipped a little here and there. When we go out, a lot of times we're going out at 6:30, or people are coming from work and they might have forgot to grab their shirt, to throw it on or whatever. So we're a little bit lenient on that, but that's our signature. And that's what, when we're out in public, we want people to see us with our shirts, and that we're having fun and enjoying it. It was kind of funny because when one of my daughters was getting her undergrad at Valparaiso University in Indiana, a little small town, and I was there visiting my daughter, my wife and I broke off and I went into town, and I was in a pub downtown, and there was a group of guys in there, and they all had the same shirts. They were a fraternity, and there was people in there, and they put some music on the jukebox, and they started singing together to this song. And I was thinking, man, that's pretty cool, and everybody was kind of like, pretty excited about it. And they stood out, and I thought that really, really stuck in my mind. And so we kind of made that part of this Brothers of the Rite. But and then another thing we'll do when we go out is we have a Scottish Rite toast, and that are required to do at each of our events. And there's nothing that wakes the people up that are around you and shows you off more than somebody standing up and saying, doing a toast, and it does get some attention. So that's what we want. It's all about exposure and people seeing us out there having fun. And then people ask questions then, who are you? What do you guys do? And so it's all about exposure. we also want to encourage participation in our valleys and districts, and in having fun and enlightening events to further promote our ICE initiative as set forth by Supreme Council. So those are that's one of the objectives. The other, we want to spend more time, sharing fellowship in the eyes of the public. And that's what I was just talking about. That we're really good as Masons at going to our lodge and doing our thing and then going home, and we want to get out there. We want to be out there in the public and showcase our great fraternity, and in doing so we hope to attract more opportunities for membership, and then when you create opportunities for membership, you also create mentorship opportunities. And I know Bob Siebold did a nice, beautiful presentation in Michigan, and on the ambassador program, and it's all about mentorship. And one of the requirements are, if we attract somebody as BOR, Brothers of the Rite, out at one of our functions, and they want to join the fraternity, we're obligated to mentor that person. We make sure that we're there when they're getting their entered apprentice, or when they're passed or raised, and their journey all the way through Scottish Rite, and hoping that they will continue and join Brothers of the Rite and be active in Scottish Rite. So that's one of the requirements, that we need to follow those brothers and mentor them. Another objective is we do volunteer services to work not only for our Masonic organizations, like we do snow cones and fundraising events. We'll get together with our shirts and help out Masonic organizations, but we also do other organizations. We work with other organizations, the community. An example here is we like to get together and the 4th of July, there's always an annual celebration over 3 days where the Exchange Club has food and bands playing music, and they have a beer tent, and so we go and we help them out. We'll get 4 or 5 guys together with our shirts, and we'll go and we'll take turns and shifts. We'll get another group coming later, and we'll work with them and have fun, and they get to know us and we get to know them. It's kind of a cross-pollination, and again, it's all about exposure. So we do things like that. I know one of the things that we've always had fun doing is once in a while we do security for the roller derby girls in town, and so we put our shirts on and we'll go and we'll help them out. We'll help them, check people in and check their IDs for bands for their, to buy beer and stuff. And then we'll, be on the floor making sure everybody's, following the rules and behaving. But people see us on the floor. They see us out there, and we're having fun when we're doing it. And again, it's about exposure. And so it also, we want to breathe life and encourage engagement, with our membership, and by doing something completely different. And this organization is completely different. We do things. We're a Masonic organization, but we do things quite a bit different. We've rolled this out to all the other regions within the state, and we currently have over 400 members, which is a pretty good group. A number of people, considering we had 2 years of lockdown and with COVID, and then even coming out of COVID, it took about 1.5 years before people started really getting involved again and going out in public, and so 400 members we've been able to put through the ceremony and get involved, and we are looking in discussions with other states, within other jurisdictions, to bring BOR to interested valleys. I know when Commander Glatley, he went through Brothers of the Rite when we had it in Grand Rapids, and he was excited, and he told me he wanted us to do this. He'd like to get this done the states throughout the jurisdiction. And so, we are in discussions with other valleys. We're currently in discussion with Indiana and Pennsylvania. I know Commander Glatley also recommended that, wanted us to get into the Northern Light. And PJ Roop approached me and wanted to interview me. And I told him, I said, PJ, what we need to do is you need to go through first, and then I'll do the interview, and then you'll have a better understanding of the organization and a better basis to do an article. So we have a small team that's willing to travel and to other states and within the jurisdiction put on the initial ceremony. The ceremony was designed to be very mobile. There's a list of items or props that we have of about 30, but most of them are at every Masonic lodge. And so we have that list. And if we're traveling, we'll make sure we coordinate ahead of time, make sure they have everything we need. The biggest challenge that we have is sound, because we do tie this into a musical score. When we put this together, we thought it was important to have music, to set the mood. And also, when I was growing up as a kid, I remember major events from, eons ago. But when I hear a song, it reminds me of those events. The songs that were, popular at the time, and those major news events and things that happened. When I hear a song, I remember something, and I remember an event. So we thought it was not only good to set the mood for the ceremony, but it was also important in the fact that it really helps to create memories. And so, like when somebody from Brothers of the Rite that went through the ceremony hears a song that was one of those in the ceremony, it right away brings back those memories. And we thought that was really important. So a sound system we do need. And so we have to coordinate ahead of time to make sure we have the proper hookups. All of our music is digital, on the computer, but it's always a challenge when you go to a new place. What kind of system do they have, and are we compatible to hook in? And we have to find those things out ahead of time. And then if we don't, we have our own system that we can bring along, a portable system. So we're very mobile, and we can go anywhere and do, put it on, and we like to have it in different places. We can do it in a lodge room or a cathedral or whatever, but we prefer to do it in a place that has a little more atmosphere and something that's different. And so it just adds to the effect. This year we're celebrating our 10th year anniversary, and it's time's gone fast. It's amazing. We're going to be holding a statewide BOR ceremony and celebration at our Council of Deliberation on July 26th in Alma, Michigan. And any of you are welcome to come if you'd like. We have a 10-year anniversary challenge coin that we're selling to raise funds for our CDC learning centers. I'm not much of a challenge coin guy because it's heavy and it just adds to the weight in your pockets and pulls my pants down. But this is a really nice coin. It's done very, very well and professionally, and I think it really hits the mark. I think it's a beautiful thing, and so we're going to be selling those and using the funds for the CDC. We also have some other swag planned to be available, shirts and jackets and stuff with the logo on it. And we even have where they put a big logo on the back, and so there's a lot of people that are excited about that. We also have a local brewery, Lake Superior Smokehouse and Brewery is brewing beer for the event. And it's we held a statewide competition to name the beer. So there was Brothers of the Rite members that submitted. We had 124 submissions of possible names for the beer, and there's some really good ones. And we had a panel that put it all, that took it all, narrowed it down, and we got down to the final name that we thought was the best. And the winner is going to receive 2 free tickets for the 2026 Valley of Michigan cruise that's going to be coming up, and where we're going to be 7 days in the Caribbean. And this is like the 3rd cruise in the last 4 years that we've been on, and we have pretty good participation. Everybody has a good time, and so the winner of the beer contest will receive 2 free tickets for that. So it's kind of a nice gift. And the winner was Jeff Morehouse. This is the label that we're going to be putting on the beer can. We're going to be selling 4 packs of 16 ounces, and this is the label that'll be on there. It won't have the congratulations on there, but Jeff Morehouse was the guy that won, and the name was the Solemn Requiem. And we thought that was a very cool name, and it was really kind of a cool event, and a lot of people were pretty fired up about it. And so we'll be serving that. We also are going to be putting this on growlers, and we're going to have some tap beer there too. It's all pre-ordered. People are going to pre-purchase it because we had to follow all the state laws and everything, but they're going to pre-purchase it, and then we're going to bring it down to the celebration, and we'll have it there, and we'll have, like I said, we'll have the cans in 4 packs, and then we also will have the growlers with the logo and everything on it. So people are excited about that. Here's one of the photos in our celebration after the dirge. We put this is our favorite venue. We've done it several times here, and this is in the Scottish Rite building in Dearborn, and this room is what they call the man cave. And I don't know if any of you have been to Dearborn, but the man cave is pretty nice. It's like an old English smoking room, and it's the perfect venue because it just has the atmosphere, and it's just really a nice facility to do it in. But you can only do it for a group of about this size, because if you get any more, then there's no room to move around and do what we need to do. We've had to do it lately down when we do our Southeast region in the same building. We had to do it in the lodge room because we just didn't have enough room. We put 50 guys through in one of the classes, and that was a lot. Well, when we first started this, we figured we wanted to do between 10 and 20 at a time. That'd be perfect, because then it can move along. It won't last long. The ceremony is about 45 minutes. We wanted it to move, and then the ceremony turns into a celebration that goes for another half hour, 45 minutes, and then we go out on the town and enjoy each other and have fun, and then we're out in the spotlight. We're out in the community. And so when you have 50 guys going through, you need a bigger room, and it takes a lot longer, but it's hard to turn down 50 guys that want to go through and tell them, no, that's too many. The other thought is you make it so people have to wait, because then they want it more, but we like, we accommodated the 50, and it worked well. And we've had other big classes of 30, 40 people. And this was a real fun event. And that's our favorite venue there. This is another shot. This is down in Grand Rapids, and there's Commander Glatley there. And then Walt Wheeler, he was there. And George Taylor, he joined on that trip. And he's from our Supreme Council staff, and we all had a great time. And that was when Commander Glatley was wanting us to do this in all the states in the jurisdiction. This is the class of 2022 in the Northeast region, Valley of Michigan, and this is in the Bay City area. and nobody got the word out that it was a casual event. We like to do these casual, and a lot of times we're in shorts. We want to be comfortable. We want to have fun and do something totally different. And so, but these guys didn't get the word. They're looking pretty sharp there, and that was also a real good event. This is another. This is out in the pub afterwards. After one of the Detroit events, and this is one of the tables. There's several tables full of guys, and we're all having fun, and you know, we usually go out and we'll eat, and I think we put the music on here and did some singing. You know, we have 2 songs at the end of the ceremony that we sing, and so I got an interesting story when we first did this whole thing, and you know, we had planned it for that whole year. We put it together, and we were all wondering, well, how is this gonna, you know, is this gonna work, and then is it gonna do what we think it's gonna do, and so we had a nice class. Probably, I think the inaugural class is about 20, and then we went out afterwards. You know, we did our thing. We went out afterwards and we had dinner. And then one of the guys had to leave that went through, and he said, well, I have to go and work. He was bartending in a bar or a pub down the street. And so we said, well, some of us will probably follow you there. And so when we got done, we went, and he was there, and there was a lot of people in the place, and there were a lot of young people in there. And so we were there for a while, and I went over to the jukebox to put the 2 songs that we sing in our ceremony. I put them on. I asked the guy that was at the playing pool there. I said, hey, could you help me put these songs on there? Because it was a newfangled jukebox, and I didn't really know how to operate. He says, sure. And I told him what songs. He goes, man, those are pretty cool songs. And I said, yeah, they are. And so it took a while for them to come on, you know, because they had a lineup of music. And then when it came on, we started belting it out. We had the lyrics, you know, and I had them in little paper, you know, that everybody could read, and they were singing away, and pretty soon the whole bar was singing because they knew the songs. And I'm not going to tell you the songs because in case you ever want to go through, I don't want to give too much away, but we started singing, and everybody was singing, and after that we were like rock stars. Everybody's like, hey, you know. And I was walking through, and somebody handed me a piece of pizza, some girl, and you know, I mean, it was just like we were rock stars. They were, who are you guys? And we were telling them, and we said, you know, one lady came up and said, who are you guys? I said, you know, we're Masons. We're Scottish Rite Masons, and you know, that we're out, you know, after our ceremony having fun. She goes, you got to come talk to my husband. So she drags me over there, and I started talking to him, and he says, you know, he's been thinking about being a Mason, and he knew somebody I knew, and we got him on the phone, and we were talking, and the guy ended up joining. You know, he got a pocket petition. One of the guys had a pocket petition, gave it to him, and he ended up filling it out, and we followed him through, you know, and he ended up joining. And the guy that came over that put the music on in the jukebox, and he said, who are you guys? I said, we're Freemasons, you know, we're Scottish Rite Masons. He goes, my grandpappy's a Mason down in Alabama. And I said, well, and he said, my grandpappy always wants me to join, you know. I says, well, boy, he'd be pretty excited if you sent him a petition that you filled out and had him sign it. We got another petition from behind the bar and gave it to him, told him, send it down, you know, and have him sign it, and then bring it back and give it to the guy behind the bar there. And I hadn't seen him. I went back a few weeks later to see if he was there, and he was playing pool, and I asked him if he went through with it. And he said, you know, right after we met him and he gave him the petition, he said he got called to go to Colorado. He was wrestling at Northern Michigan University. He was a wrestler, and he got called out to go to the U.S. Olympic team to train. And he said, I'm leaving in a few days. So I didn't go through with it, but I told him, you can join anywhere. You know, you can join in any place almost in the world. And so, you know, so make sure you fill that out and get your grandpappy to sign it. But, you know, we were just all taken back because those are the things and the responses that we wanted. We wanted to get out there, and so we were very pleased, you know, and that was our first dirge that we did. And so it was really kind of cool. So getting out there in public and, you know, I wear my shirt all the time. I'll be at a gas pump and somebody say, man, that's cool. You know, somebody pumping gas next to me. That's cool. Well, tell me about that, you know? And so it's all about awareness and so here's another after event, and you can see the waitress over there taking orders, and I think this is one of the breweries in Grand Rapids, and we had a couple tablesfuls of guys and good food, good times, and the beauty is, you know, we're usually done. We usually do this in the afternoon, and we're done by 6, 7 o'clock. And anybody wants to continue, they go, and I mean continue, and you can go home. And so, you know, these people that have family and kids at home, they can get home at a reasonable hour and be with their family. So it's a good opportunity. Here's back at the man cave, and I got a beard and I'm bald, but that's not me in the center there. That's somebody else. And thank God. And because, you know, after all, you know, brothership and brotherhood is glamorous. So anyhow, that's kind of what I have for you. You know, if you have any questions, you know, we'll open it up to questions, and you know, hope you enjoyed the presentation and got a good feel for it. And we'll open it up for questions.
Well, I'll tell you, for me, I'm in, Jacob. I'm in. Let's go. I got to just ask you. So how do we do this? Do we go to our deputy and say, this is something we want to do? Are we allowed to do it? How does this work?
Well, you know, in Michigan, we did this whole thing, and our deputy at the time was David Bedwell, and I kept him informed the whole time. I didn't want him getting into any kind of trouble because you know, we were doing something that was different, and then obviously, you know, the logo with the skull and crossbones. I was asking for some help with one of the Masonic brothers in Michigan. He was, you know, he's a past grandmaster and kind of is a very big opinion leader. And I asked him, you know, what can we do to, you know, to protect this and this logo and, you know, like copyright or whatever. And he says, you can't use that. And I said, what do you mean? He says, it's got a skull and crossbones on it. You can't use that. I said, well, we are, you know, because we already had it cleared through Scottish Rite, you know, with David Bedwell and you know, I said, we are using it. And he said, well, people are going to think we're devil worshipers. I said, some of them already do. And that's not our target market, you know? So, but we went ahead and, you know, and did it anyway, but I was glad that I was keeping David involved, you know, and our deputy involved in the whole process. And actually David, passed away, unfortunately, before he was able to go through, but he had a shirt and he was ready to go through. He passed away. So when we did the ceremony down in the man cave there, we actually had his shirt put encased in a frame and his shirt, and then we did it posthumously, and his son joined that day, and then we presented that to him, and so it was pretty moving. There was not a clear eye in the whole place. I mean, when we called his name, we called his name last, you know, and during the ceremony, and there wasn't a dry eye in the whole place. So you know, yeah, I would probably talk to your deputy and just, you know, yeah, if he has any questions, you know, have him feel free to call me or even talk to Tim Marshbanks or even Walt. Walt's been through it, you know, and he knows about it and he's a member. So, and I would certainly like to get some of the guys in Supreme Council to go through, you know. I've been talking to Walt about that, and he's got a lot of other things on his mind, but you know, yeah, and Bob, you know, I don't know if Walt talked to you about our celebration. He was going to talk to you about maybe coming out with him, and he was going to come and possibly do something. And I said, tell him that he can go through Brothers of the Right at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know, I might have jumped the gun there, but he was going to talk to you about coming out there, and unless his plans have changed, you know, So,
Okay.
but otherwise, just if you can get the go ahead, we can get some guys if we can schedule it and come out. The biggest challenge is trying to schedule everybody's schedule. I mean, coordinate everybody's schedule. And because we're all busy, we all belong to so many things. And some of the guys are still working. I'm retired, but it doesn't take a very big team, and we can always snag some people and actually have some of the candidates be part of the ceremony too, or, putting it on. So it's pretty simple. And
So is it just so I understand, is it a state? Is it a state thing, or is it a valley to valley?
well, it's when we started it, we were all valleys. We had 5 valleys in Michigan, and then we consolidated. So now it's a regional thing.
Okay.
One valley, and it's regional. But we would look at it as a valley thing. I know Indiana. I think it's the valley of. I don't remember if it's Indianapolis or if it's Fort Wayne. Because I know Fort Wayne, we were going to schedule to do it there, but just because it was convenient for us, the people in Lower Michigan. But it ended up getting canceled because some things came up, and then we never did get. We started talking again about other options, and it just hasn't happened yet. But yeah, I would talk to. It's always good to talk to the deputy. And
Sure.
if it's coming to your state. Now, we've had guys from the southern jurisdiction join, and we don't have a problem with that, because that's, if they want to join in our jurisdiction, that's fine with us. And we have 2 guys from Texas that come almost every year when it's in Dearborn, and they'll come and they'll be at the BOR event, and we don't have a problem, but we won't take the ceremony to the southern jurisdiction unless we get clearance through their Supreme Council. And we do have members. We have one guy that joined, and he was from, I think he was from Bulgaria or somewhere. I can't remember where he was from, but he was there and he joined. He was Scottish Rite, and he was affiliated, and he went through. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Jake, can you stop sharing your screen? And then Peter's got a question, and so does Cliff.
Okay, let's see. Stop share. Okay.
Yeah, my brother, I was
Yes.
thinking about something. It's interesting. So you're doing this on a valley basis within Michigan. I'm curious if you've given any thought to possibly establishing regional areas, because this seems like a natural way to bring CODs that come close to each other. Like in New York, we're very, physically close, and also,
Right.
in great amity with New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Vermont. This would be a great opportunity for brothers of not just different valleys, but different CODs to unite under a more common team. I wonder if you've given that any thought.
Oh yeah. I mean, anything that we can do to get it out there, and for brothers to have fun. And we're doing it regionally in Michigan because we are one big valley. So now it's regions. We have 5 regions, and so we will go into areas even between regions and draw from both regions. And but we do focus a lot of times when they have a reunion. What we'll do is we'll do it on Friday night, and then Saturday's the reunion. So we've been holding off now this year because we wanted to do the statewide event here at COD. And so, yeah, if you have the blessing of the deputy and the deputies of the different states, I think it can be done anyway that makes sense. And I think that's a great idea.
Cliff?
My Latin is a little rusty, so I was wondering if you could tell us what the Latin motto at the bottom of the logo means, if you could share that.
Sure. It's what unites us in honor stays with us in death, basically, is what it says. Yes, that's a good question. It's part of the ceremony. We talk about the particulars, and in the logo and the we talk about the symbolism, and a lot of it's stuff you've heard before because a lot of those symbols are from our degrees. So yeah, that's what it says.
Thank you.
Hey,
Yes.
Jake, brother Terry McLean wants to know how is the club financed, and is there a due structure or pay as you play now? I believe you mentioned that there was no dues, but
Yeah.
I'm sure you're not giving away those shirts. They've got to cost at
No.
least 30.
They have to purchase the shirts. That's the only cost that a new member has, is to buy the shirt. And they have to order them like a month ahead of time. And if they want a name on it, they'll have to choose a name and then have it so it can be put on. So they can get online or else call in to our secretary or our main office, and then they just give the information and send a check or pay by credit card. It has to be done a month ahead of time, so the shirts are ready. And then what I do is I get the shirts. Somebody will bring them to wherever we're doing the dirge, and then they get their shirts in the ceremony. It's part of the ceremony. And so we tell them ahead of time that you're going to be getting your shirt in the ceremony. So wear something that you can either put it over or take off and put the shirt on. But that's the only cost. We don't have dues because we wanted to keep it simple. We don't want to have a treasurer and everything is Dutch treat. When you go out, it's Dutch treat. When we have a ceremony, a lot of times what we'll do is for the refreshments after the ceremony, the short celebration, we'll put a jar and have people pitch in some money, and that pays for pop and water and beer and that kind of thing. So it's try to be as simple as possible and keep it so it's lean and as far as leaders, and it's just mainly have a good time. A lot of we have monthly pub nights, and some months we'll take off because there's holidays and stuff like that, but we usually have a monthly pub night, and we advertise it. When we go, we figure out the next month where we're going to go, and we bring it all over the place and other parts of the UP, and we have fun. And it's simple. All you got to do is let the facility know ahead of time that you're going to have, this many people probably coming, and you never know how many, because, some people don't let you know ahead of time, and you know how Masons are.
Masons,
and they show up. And so, we get a pretty good rough estimate of how many people are going to come. You let the facility know that, you're going to be there, and they like it. They like to have us come in, and so they're always looking forward to us to come back. And we do have some brothers that own some establishments, and we usually go to them, more often. So
that's great. I had a bunch of questions I was going to ask you, but you actually started answering them in your presentation. I was going to ask you about the beer, and you covered that.
mhm.
And then I was going to ask you about the songs, which songs you sang, but you told us you wouldn't tell us.
Well, it's nice to have kind of some
Can
surprises.
you give us the genre?
Yeah. Oh, well, if you ever hear anybody talking and that's a brother of the Rite, you'll hear about wooden leg, and you'll hear about stuff like that. I lost my wooden leg, and
Gotcha.
it's kind of, yeah. Okay. So
I'm gonna make a guess that they are possibly sea shanties.
yeah, kind of thing, that kind of theme, and they're kind of fun. They're
Yeah.
kind of tunes that you can have fun singing and or hollering. But no, it really adds a lot, and it really loosens up some people too, that
Oh yeah.
at first they're, and then pretty soon they're singing along, and it's a lot of fun. We'll have the lyrics up on the screen, so they can follow it, and we have the music playing it. And it just seems to do something to change the mood and lighten things up, and then it's fun after.
So it's not the Edmund Fitzgerald song then.
No, no, we actually one of the events we had down in Dearborn, we did the dirge, and we had the celebration, and then after after the celebration, we moved it into the dining room. We ordered about 200 White Castle burgers, and had those and beer and pop, and then we had a bus pick us up. It was a tour bus, and it was an old school bus made, decorated up, and they had a good sound system in it. And what it did was it was a tour of historical taverns in Detroit. And so it was really cool. They were playing Motown music, and we were going, and I grew up down there in that time period, at the Motown, and they were playing Motown music. And then when they get close to the tavern, they give us the history. And these are all old historical places, late 1800s. And they'd kind of give the history, and then we'd go in and have a couple drinks. Then we go to the next one. And it was really kind of funny because one of the bars that we went to, or taverns that we went to, was one of the older ones. It was right next to the old Detroit fairgrounds that have been abandoned, and it's a real rough neighborhood, and in the middle of, you wouldn't believe that there'd be a bar there that would be successful. But what we found out was the reason they were able to be there was because it was owned by a bunch of biker gangs, and that was their neutral ground. When they were there, everything was cool, and the reason they were able to operate there is because they were biker gangs that owned the place, and everybody was scared, so that whole block was safe. And it was really a neat place. I was a little nervous though, going in with these on before I knew that, because it looks kind of like a biker thing, especially if you had a big one on your back or something. I was a little nervous when I heard it was a motorcycle bar, but then when we found out that they were the ones that they owned it, and it was neutral ground, and everything was really cool. That was one of the neater places we went to. And but that was just a fun trip. And I was thinking, man, I'd like to take my kids on that trip, if we were ever in Detroit area. They're grown up now. And it was really cool. But you can get real creative, with events and have fun.
Yeah, the logo would work great on the back of a denim or a leather jacket, like a biker jacket.
Oh yeah. And but if you're in their territory, you get a little nervous. But
I know we're there.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of being in Scotland once, and I'm a Celtic football club fan, or supporter, and we were in Glasgow, and that morning we got a tour of Celtic Park, and I'm a typical American. When your sports teams, you wear the shirt, so I wore my shirt,
Uh-huh.
it's the green and white hoops, and then we were driving around outside of Glasgow, and we went out to Stirling Bridge and other places. And my wife was asking her cousin, so we can have lunch anywhere. He goes, no, we can't. I'm like, well, why? He goes, well, Rick's wearing a Celtic top. And we're like, yes, so? And he goes, well, it's kind of like wearing gang colors in this part of Scotland, because there's a big rivalry between the two teams in Scotland, and it's secular in some respects. So we had to eat at a Pizza Hut, and it was in Scotland. I had to eat at a Pizza Hut.
Yeah. Wow.
But this would be a cool thing to do at our council deliberation on a Saturday morning, so we wouldn't have to do a leadership presentation. How long does the ceremony take?
About 40 to 45 minutes. It depends on how many people are going through. Now, when we had 50 going through, and each one is presented with a shirt in a certain way, and it takes time, and so the more people you have, the longer it's going to take.
Right.
And but like I said, we usually try to shoot for 10 to 20, and that's a good a good amount of people that it can move along. And again, we want it to move. We don't want people sitting there going, this is taking too long. And
Right.
Again, it was geared for fast moving people that are in the lane, with stuff coming at them all the time, and not a lot of patience.
How many brothers do you need to do a conferral?
Oh, basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Six. Yep. And we can draw on a few of those from candidates if we need,
Okay, well, that's good. That's cool.
Yeah, there's
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Actually 7, because we need a guy with sound, to do sound. So
Myron.
Yeah, Myron. I thought I was just
Myron.
So all kidding aside, so if one of these started in New York, we could travel around and start it valley to valley, or however they decide to do it.
Yep.
Once we get, officially dubbed by you guys, we're good to go.
Right. Right. And again, we'd kind of like to keep it. I know we did it in the Bay City area, and they did it on their own the next time. They really didn't ask for help, and they asked if they could do a few changes, and they did a lot of changes. So the guys that went through, they were coming up to me and asking me questions. Well, what about this? What, because they've heard all these things that we're talking about, and they didn't see it because it was done different. So I had to explain, well, you need to go to the next one, and we'll put it on, and then you'll understand what those things are. You know what I mean? There's sayings, and there's things that you pick up when you're going through the ceremony, that if you didn't do it the way we do it, then people are questioning, well, what's the significance? We didn't see anything in the ceremony that refers to that. So, we'd like to keep it, as much as we can to the same. And
that makes sense.
And it's been successful. I mean, I've had people tell me that it's the best degree they've ever seen, and it's not a degree, it's a ceremony, and a lot of people got a lot of meaning out of it, much more than I thought they would. But I don't think I've ever had anybody say it sucked.
Thanks for spending time with Excelsior 32. The experiences, comments, opinions, and views shared on this program are those of individual Freemasons and do not reflect the official position of any Grand Lodge, Concordant, or Pendant body. Until we meet again, keep on reaching higher.